Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert were two of America's greatest film critics. In this special tribute to them, we honor their memory with a review of their favorite movies.
Hi, I'm Leah.
I'm Sean.
And I'm David. And as we all know, we recently lost an individual who's a cornerstone of film criticism and a personal hero of mine, Roger Ebert. And along with his reviewing partner, Gene Siskel, they were on the air for almost 20 years. So in honor of their memory, today, we're going to talk about some of their favorite films.
I have to say, as a little girl growing up in Chicago, it was my pleasure to sit down every Sunday night and watch Siskel and Ebert rant and rave and box and yell and scream at each other about films. These guys were able to make analyzing and looking at films understandable.
Right.
They made it enjoyable and they made it entertaining. And they set the tone and the bar for all other popular film criticism.
Absolutely, and it's funny you mentioned about watching it as a kid, because I was an adolescent when they first came on the air, and this was the one time of the week where my family and I would sit down and watch a show together and then talk about it afterwards. And it was amazing because my parents and my older siblings treated me like I was an adult, like I was a peer. And I'd like to think that Siskel and Ebert were the stewards in my rite of passage from adolescence to adulthood.
When I was young, they were already famous and had already been on TV for several years. But I sort of remember just sort of seeing them on TV and how famous they were and thinking, well, that has to be some kind of standard. And if I want to see a movie, who are you going to look for to tell you how good it is or how bad it is? And it's those guys. And even today, if I see a movie from the 70s or the 80s or the 90s, I want to go back and see exactly what it is that they thought about it and see if I agree with them or not. And when I disagree with them, I was always going, what did I do wrong?
Right, you're like, you feel dirty, right?
What's wrong with me?
I'm not smart enough.
So for today, we looked at the list made by Gene Siskel and the list made by Roger Ebert of what they consider the greatest films of all time. I have to come up with two, right? It's impossible to come up with 10 films, let alone two.
They're all amazing. Yeah, how do you pick?
So I just said I'll pick the earliest one and I'll pick the newest one. And it's a Buster Keaton film called The General. It's a terrific testament to how great silent cinema can be. And Buster Keaton himself was one heck of a performer, and his stunts are just amazing. And
yeah, you couldn't get away with that today.
No way.
They were like, okay, now let's bring in the stunt guy. Okay?
SAG would say, I don't think so.
It's not gonna
Not
fly.
happening.
No.
Buster Keaton thought it was his best film. Orson Welles at one point said it was the greatest comedy ever. So
Really?
those accolades are pretty good.
And that's a film that actually still holds up,
Yeah.
nearly 100 years later.
And the newest film on the list is from Roger Ebert, and that's The Tree of Life, directed by Terrence Malick, which came out in 2011. So Ebert basically said he wanted to pick a new film, and he said this was his propaganda pick, meaning he wanted to call attention to it by putting it on his list. So he's going out on a limb. It's a bold choice to pick a film like this from 2011, but I think it's a terrific pick in a way, because this is the film I think in 30 years will be declared a masterpiece and probably the best film of this decade, and it's only 2013 when I say that.
Someday we'll fall down and weep, and we'll understand it all. All things.
I took this as an opportunity to direct viewers to some perhaps lesser-known films. For Gene Siskel, I picked Shoah, which is Claude Lanzmann's 9.5-hour documentary epic about the Nazi Holocaust. It is incredibly intense in that there is no archival footage in this film. It is all interviews. Concentration camp survivors, Nazi military, bystanders, which is really kind of powerful. These are people who lived downwind of crematoriums and never did anything.
One thing that's interesting, though, is it topped Siskel's top 10 list in 1985, but Roger Ebert didn't put it on his top 10 list. He actually said he felt it was somewhat unfair to put it on there because you couldn't compare other films against it.
That's true.
So that tells you something about, a 9.5-hour documentary.
And then my next pick, which was on Roger Ebert's list, was Tokyo Story, which is Yasujiro's 1953 classic film. Ozu is considered one of the top 3 best Japanese filmmakers of all time. He's right there with Kurosawa and Mizoguchi. This is a film about an old couple who travels from their provincial village to Tokyo to visit their adult children. And nobody has time for them. There's this tension that's always boiling under the surface of this film, and it's just beautiful, and no aspiring filmmaker should go without seeing Tokyo Story.
My two picks are movies that I would have never gone to see on my own. And the first one from Roger Ebert's list is Raging Bull. And Raging Bull, A movie about a boxer, I had no desire to go see a movie about a boxer, but a friend of mine dragged me to the movie, and it's not really about boxing. It's about a man with a lot of demons who turns those demons into success in the ring, but also shows us his failures. The boxing scenes are amazing. They're more like choreography until the punches landed. It felt like you were in the ring and you were getting hit in the face. The boxing scenes were so realistic that Robert De Niro actually broke Joe Pesci's rib. And you can actually hear him going, oomph. Pretty
Ouch.
cool. Yeah, I bet you guys didn't know that.
Did not know that.
My pick from Gene Siskel's list, of course, is Dr. Strangelove.
Or
How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the
That's
Bomb.
right.
This movie stood the test of time. It's very much applicable to the world we're in today, unfortunately. And of course, Stanley Kubrick was really taken to task on this movie because he wanted it in black and white, and the studio was like saying, no, all of our statistics say that movies in color make money. Right. It has an amazing cast led by Peter Sellers, who plays 3 roles. He plays the president and a British commander who's trying to stop a nuclear holocaust. And of course, he plays Dr. Strangelove. Now, what's fascinating is that he was also supposed to play the captain of the bombers role, who was played by Slim Pickens, but he couldn't master a Southern accent. So it was given to Slim Pickens, and actually, Slim Pickens is my favorite part of the movie. He is an American original, and when he rides that bomb into its final destination at the end, waving his hat in the air like a real cowboy, that is one of the most indelible scenes in cinema history. So to wrap things up, the reason why we do Just Seen It every week is we try to hold ourselves to the standard that were set by Siskel and Ebert. They were wonderful. They had a real impact on us and how we view cinema, and we will miss them both dearly. Let's raise a glass to them, to Roger and Gene.
cheers.
Cheers.